I'm really open about it because, I know a lot of people who are going through tough times, even now. So I've never hidden the fact that I've had counselling and have had low times and suicidal thoughts in my sort of lowest moments. I've never hidden that from anyone because I think anyone who knows me would be absolutely shocked to think that I've actually had any mental health problems in my life.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark Tuxford and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands, brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their individual life lessons and how it shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business. Here's a question for you. Why do we do what we do? When it comes down to it, family is one of the reasons that drives us on from a personal and professional point of view. The Silver Fox, Mr. Jim Lewis, joins us to highlight the importance of Youth Talk, a charity that provides confidential, psychodynamic and individual counselling between the ages of 13 to 25 in St Albans and surrounding areas. It's good to talk, and Jim's life story is one that has involved a varied career. Starting out with a long career in teaching before dabbling in the wine market and a stint in digital marketing, before finding the role he's enjoying most today at Youth Talk. Throughout this episode, Jim touches upon his mental health struggles and suffering with rheumatoid arthritis that meant his life focus needed to realign. In addition to the influence his late father had on him and why family and people in general are his inspiration today.
Jim, welcome to the show. How you doing, my good man?
I'm very well, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me. Splendid.
No problem. Where are you joining us from today then?
I'm in Redbourne, which is a little village just outside St Albans in Hertfordshire.
Excellent. So today we welcome Jim Lewis from Youth Talk, who has a mission to raise funds to empower the next generation by delivering free and confidential counselling for 13 to 25-year-olds in St Albans and surrounding areas. I first met Jim at a networking event hosted by a mutual connection, Sanjeev Bhavnani, where he agreed to come onto the podcast and share his story. With a career spent mostly in education and becoming a popular figure within St Albans, we explore his unique journey as well as delving into those all-important life lessons. So, Jim, to start us off, perhaps you could take us back to the beginning of your career and how you found the role you're enjoying most today.
Yeah, so as you quite rightly said, Mark, most of my life has been spent in education. I think from a very young age, I always wanted to be a teacher. Embarrassingly, or maybe not embarrassingly, I really only turned up to school every day to play sport. So surprise, surprise, I became a PE teacher. And that, unfortunately, was shortened, that career, when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 23. Thought I'd broken a bone in my foot playing in rugby. Numerous scans and x-rays showed that there was nothing wrong, and finally a blood test showed it up. And I'd been teaching PE games then in South East London for 2 years. And decided to sort of obviously resign from that, come home and decide, what are the next steps? How do we get control of this rheumatoid arthritis? It was very painful. And whilst at home, I was contacted by my old school, who were looking for a teacher that January. This is 1994, to come in and teach maths, English, geography and history to 10-year-olds. They knew that I had a situation with the rheumatoid, which we were slowly getting under control. But I just thought to myself, surely I can teach those 4 subjects to 10-year-olds. My parents kindly bought me a tweed jacket for Christmas that year. And I was up and running and loved absolutely every minute of it. I got back into coaching. So I was coaching rugby, football, cricket, athletics, the whole lot. But soon after I was back in the school, a couple of promotions happened and I became deputy head in the junior school there, which I did a role that I fulfilled for about 12 years. And then following that, and this is the beauty of the school, actually, I had so many varied opportunities. Following that, I took on a role as director of development, which effectively involved setting up an alumni association, which we hadn't really had, or certainly not an effective one in the whole history of the school, but also taking on communications, marketing, admissions, fundraising, and looking at sort of leveraging the school's facilities, etc., for sort of commercial benefit. And that took me all the way through to 2020. I'd probably given every last drop of blood to that place, and I actually love it. I still love it, but I couldn't do any more. I was exhausted. So I took a little bit of time out. I then indulged myself for a year by working at Majestic Wine. I've always been a lover of wine. And I got to do some exams. I got to sell some wine. I also bought a lot of wine and tasted a lot of wine, and it was great fun. But it didn't exactly pay the bills. So I moved on, and it's been very varied. So I did a year selling gum arabic, and we don't need to go into the details of that, but it's a very, very interesting substance, natural substance from acacia trees, and has so many incredible properties. It's practically in everything we eat and drink every day. And then I sold digital marketing for 18 months. And towards the end of my time there, the charity Youth Talk came and presented and pitched to the digital marketing agency, asking if we'd consider choosing them as our charity of the year. And in that conversation, and I was going to manage it because I had some previous experience of Youth Talk, which we'll probably come on to later.
Yeah.
And in that conversation, they mentioned the fact that they were generating this new role for a corporate partnership fundraiser, and it was literally a no-brainer. Mark, I knew the lady who runs the sort of fundraising at Youth Talk. I texted her half an hour after she left the building. I saw her about 5 hours later down at Youth Talk, and by the following day, I'd applied for the job, interviewed, and January the 2nd, I started my latest and probably my final career move, working for Youth Talk.
So I'm just interested because you mentioned about the fact that you were a teacher. You then obviously got into teaching other core sort of subjects. You then obviously went on to work for Majestic Wine, then go into digital marketing. So what made you want to go into different career paths, especially when you were kind of starting out as a teacher, and you mentioned earlier that was your passion?
Do you know what? Pretty much everything in my life, Mark, has come by chance. I've probably done 2 proper interviews in all of my life. I sort of keep in contact with an awful lot of people, and you know how it works. When you know a lot of people, you talk to a lot of people, ideas get thrown out there left, right, and center. Yeah. So there was absolutely zero thought behind my career after leaving teaching. I knew I wasn't going to go back into teaching. I couldn't imagine teaching anywhere else. Through my work at Columbus, I generated a really nice relationship with the manager at Majestic in St Albans, who became a very close friend, actually. And I just on the off chance said, look, I'm looking for a bit of work, 30 hours a week. And he said, Jim, come in, mate, you can manage the tasting council, you'd be brilliant. So it was purely by chance. And then as I said, it didn't pay the bills, and the gum acacia job was with an old clubman, an old schoolmate of mine. I've always been quite good at talking, Mark, and I think everyone assumes that if you can talk, you can sell. It's probably true. As long as you honestly believe in the product you're selling, it's not difficult. But the gum acacia job was really interesting on the one hand, but it wasn't the sort of environment that I enjoyed working in. Very, very small team, quite isolated. I was on a long commute, etc., etc. And in fact, my boss there, who's an old schoolmate, totally understood why it wasn't for me. And then the digital marketing opportunity, again, I was a director on the St Albans Chamber of Commerce for 5 years. So I know a lot of local business people. And again, they approached me and just said, look, I'd been talking to them anyway, and they knew I wasn't entirely happy with the role that I had in this previous job. And they just said, look, we're looking for an out-and-out salesperson. Would you consider giving it a bash? And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Great team, lovely people to work with. But it wasn't, I suppose, giving me the satisfaction that I was looking for, which I felt I always got as a teacher. You know, that reward you get from helping young people is quite special. And, you know, I'm still in touch with hundreds, if not thousands, of my former students. And I still have the same relationship with them. It's, you know, it's one of mutual respect. It's one where we help each other. It's really quite special. And they have been hugely influential in the short time that I've been at Youth Talk in terms of supporting the charity. And that's relationships built over 10, 20, 30, 40 years in some cases. So, yeah, it's... yeah, it is a bit of an unusual career path in the last 4 years, but I definitely know that I've found my calling. Certainly until I retire, I won't be going anywhere else. This is far too important. It's not even a job, actually, Mark. It's a mission.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's lots of reasons why it's so important, which we'll delve into later, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. And I suppose it takes us up to sort of current day, really, obviously, with Youth Talk and your involvement in that. So Youth Talk is about raising funds to empower the next generation, as I mentioned earlier. But tell us a bit more about Youth Talk's work and why you wanted to get involved.
Yeah, so whilst I was a deputy head, I was also the designated safeguarding lead. So working with other services like social services, NHS, police, etc., etc. Look, I grew up in a pretty affluent area, and people, I think, sometimes assume that when you grow up in areas like this, there aren't the same problems that maybe you have in other areas in the country. They may not be the same problems, they're just different problems. You know, so the children that I taught, or students that I taught over the years, their problems are real, and the different kind of pressure that they were put under is equally important to the pressures that we know young people experience all over this country for lots of different reasons. But in my time there, you know, we had 2 young men take their own lives. We had 2 dads who I knew quite well enough to have been out with them, who took their own lives. It's the ultimate heartbreak for any family when someone feels there's no way out, and that's the only way out. But equally, I managed the pastoral care for 12 years, and there were lots of young people who had their day-to-day challenges. And that has changed over the years, I think, and it's worse now, definitely, than it used to be. So for me, going to work for a charity that supports young people, 13 to 25-year-olds, was sort of taking me back to my roots. I mean, taking me back to what I've done all my life, really, Mark, which is, you know, how do we make sure that these young people are full of hope and happiness, and are put in a position where they can truly fulfill their potential and move forward in life. And when they're in that position, I think because of what they've been through, and this should be true of everybody, is they know how important it is to give back. They know how important it is to support others. And I think, you know, Youth Talk is in many ways truly unique, because we fundraise to support young people between 13 and 25 with up to a whole year's free counselling. I don't think there's another charity in this country that will give a young person 48 free counselling sessions.
Yeah.
And that for me is the drive, because for some of the young people that come to us, they need a whole year to get where they need to be. And it won't surprise you that during the last 4 or 5 years over COVID, et cetera, the average number of sessions we are delivering to young people at Youth Talk has gone up from 16 to 24. Because there are more unwell people, young people out there who need our help. And the sort of statutory services aren't coping with the demand. Certainly in this area, if you want an appointment with CAMS, you're looking at 2 years, unless you're in the back of an ambulance on your way to hospital already. And that is the struggle. What I do want to say at this point is that this is not a doom and gloom story by any means, because we are a self-referral service. So the young people have to contact us. They can't come to us via their parents, their schools, their GPs. They have to phone us, or they have to fill in a form online. They've already decided to help themselves. They've already taken that sort of hugely courageous first brave step and said, I want support. I want to be in a better place. So in fact, all we're doing, and you said it in your introduction, we're empowering them to get the help that they need to then fulfill their potential. So it's very much a story of positivity. And when you listen to some of the stories of the young people that have been through Youth Talk over the last 27 years, they are really, really, really inspiring. So, yeah.
So we talked about Youth Talk's mission, but personally, what would you say is your mission in life, in or out of the organisation?
Mark, the only thing that really matters to me in life is people. All my emotions, all my energy comes from people, and I've made a career out of probably trying to meet as many people as I possibly can, because there's something to learn from everyone. There's something in everyone that I don't know. Look, I smile and laugh a hell of a lot, and the only people that make that happen are other people. The people that have made me happy, the people that have helped me, the people who have supported me through my life, etc., etc. They are all hugely important. So in return, you talk about mission. I suppose for me is, we all have a responsibility to make other people's lives better. As simple as that. And Mark, I do feel I've had a very privileged life. Great family, both the one I grew up in and the one that I have now with my wife and my kids. I owe that all to other people. And if I can make the smallest bit of difference in anyone's life through something that I do for them, or something that I say to them, or an introduction I might make, or whatever, then that's the thing that puts the biggest smile on my face. And it is literally my sole mission in life it is how do we help each other? Number one.
It seems to me, just listening to you speak there, I think your purpose in a way is always to kind of try and give back, whether that's to somebody at Youth Talk, 13 to 25-year-olds, a friend, family, even somebody that you don't particularly know that well. It always seems to me that you're trying to give something back, or at least try and help them on their way. So where do you think that kind of ethos or mentality comes from when you think about that?
Do you know what, Mark? Probably from my parents, and my family in general, to be fair. And I don't want to single anyone out, but my dad is my absolute ultimate hero. To me, he is still the most extraordinary person I've ever met or had the pleasure of knowing. And with that comes pressure, by the way, as well, which we'll talk about later. But he's one of the kindest, most generous people that ever lived. He's been gone now for 17, 18 years, died far too young. But just to put a sort of bit of perspective on it, at his funeral, there were hundreds of people outside who couldn't get in. I didn't recognize half of them. And talking to them afterwards, oh yeah, we used to chat to your dad at the bottom of the garden. What a lovely man. He's so kind. And that's what he was. I mean, he's a big man. I'm quite a big man. He was a big man, but he was also a very gentle man. And although he had, a fairly high up, serious job, which took a lot out of him, you would never have guessed outside of work, because he 100% put every single other person before him. And that was borne out by what he chose to do in retirement, which I won't go into here, but he basically dedicated his retirement to supporting other people. He was a listener in prisons, he was Samaritan, you name it. He did it all because he felt that he'd been dealt, despite the fact he lost his arm when he was 17. And we won't go into that, but it changed. He wanted to be a farmer. But despite that, every second of every day was dedicated to making other people's lives better. He was a really extraordinary person, backed up by an extraordinary wife, my mum, who's still with us. Very lucky, Mark. They are my role models.
And I think that goes back to your point about people, people being at the kind of heart of, I guess, what your family's all about. When you think about that's what your dad did, and he's, I guess, passed that trait on to you somewhat. But yeah, I mean, our podcast is founded upon honesty and how testing times have impacted our personal lives. So, away from your professional life, can you tell us about a challenging time in your life that made you who you are today?
Yeah, so I when I was a designated safeguarding lead, I was dealing with some difficult conversations in my office with parents and their problems at home, et cetera, et cetera. So I chose to go and do a diploma in counselling. So it was evening classes, local college, and I went along there not realising that most of the time was spent actually working with someone else and practicing counselling on each other. And I honestly thought I had the best life in the world. I had nothing to share. Do you know what I mean? I thought, shit, what am I going to talk about? And as a result of that, that's where it was blatantly obvious that I put myself under a lot of pressure to be my dad, to be as good as my dad. And as a result of that, I ended up actually having my own counselling, one-to-one CBT. I had some group CBT because I was always analysing every single thing I did every day to make sure I hadn't upset anyone, or I'd said the right thing, or did I do the right thing? And I wasn't sleeping, for a long time, particularly after my dad passed away. And it took that counselling course initially to sort of unravel that.
Obviously, we touched upon family throughout this episode. As it's gone on, it's obviously been quite clear that family is a massive part of your life, or certainly your career as well, because they've helped you on your way. So, but how much of an impact does family have on you, in the sense that, just from today's point of view, how do they inspire you, I guess? Yeah.
Well, my brother and sister are probably not only my brother and sister, but possibly my best mates. I mean, our bond is unbelievable. And in a lot of families, I know that isn't the case. Like, they just don't get on, et cetera, et cetera. We're extremely lucky, and I can turn to them for anything. But within my own family, my immediate family, and I don't want to embarrass her, but my wife is probably the absolute opposite to me, other than she is also one of the nicest, kindest, loveliest people you'll ever know. But she's also very petite, very quiet, likes is a home bird 100%, but she's also probably the only sane one in our family. People joke about the rock. Jill is our rock, because me and the two kids, woohoo, we're all over the place. Do you know what I mean? We are all a bit nuts. And she just has this unflappable ability to stay calm in every situation. And she does it so quietly. Obviously, secretly, we're all actually quite scared of her. But do you know what I mean? I mean, we've been together. We met at university. We've been together for over 30 years, and I think part of the success is that we've allowed each other to be ourselves. That we don't put any demands on each other at all. We are truly independent, but truly joined at the hip as well, if that makes sense. And look, my kids are 19 and 21. I'm not going to say it's easy. And by the way, they're outside probably listening. But I adore them, and they are very special. And I think they have personalities and characters which are quite interesting. They're also both big, smiley people. And I also think more importantly, and not every day is easy, but more importantly, I think they care, and that's all that really matters. And that's all when people put young people under a lot of stress at school these days with, expectations on academics and this, that, and the other. All I ever wanted from my children's education is for two young people to come out who were kind, caring, thoughtful, confident without being arrogant, that sort of thing. And I think that's what we've achieved on the whole. And they can be very inspirational at times. They can be a pain at times. But yeah, as a four, I think we're quite a good team.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting when you hear people talk about their families.
Yeah,
what type of roles each person has.
Oh God, yeah.
It's so fascinating because obviously everyone's different, every family's different, but I suppose your family's very traditional. It comes across very sort of traditional.
Yeah.
And obviously the thought process behind education, obviously your background in it, but also your children's upbringing has obviously led to them being just what you wanted them to be or hoped them to be anyway.
Yeah. And what I didn't say is my wife's a maths teacher. My son is training to be a maths teacher. And my daughter is about to start an apprenticeship to be sort of a drama teacher, theatre production, blah, 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 blah. Both kids vowed never to teach, having witnessed Jill and I over the last 30 or 20 years that they've been alive. And now they're both going to be teachers. And I think they'll be brilliant. I think they'll be great teachers because Jill is an incredible teacher. And you're right, we are traditional in many ways. But because of my life changes, and not that this really means anything, Jill is comfortably now the main breadwinner because, as you know, charities don't pay a lot of money. That's you don't do the job. This is not a job about making money. This is a job about making a difference. So that's another thing I would say is, she's allowed me to do that. She's never stopped me from. You should never gone. Oh, your salary is going to be half this time. How are we going to cope? But never, ever, ever, ever wins or moaned or anything. She just wants me to be happy.
I've got to ask you actually because it's just popped into my head about the fact that so my missus, she's a teacher as well, and she works in a private school, and there's this sort of preconception in a way of that. Oh, you get 6 weeks off, you get 8 weeks off, and I wish I was a teacher because I get that so much that time off. But just talk to us about, obviously from your experience, obviously your wife as well, that it's not just a holiday as such. It is obviously you're doing some work in that time as well. So talk to us about those kind of preconceptions, I suppose, as a teacher.
Yeah. I suppose it's you've also got to factor in term time. When I was a deputy head, I probably went in about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So I had 2 hours on my own because if you don't clear your decks by 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll never clear them. because every day is different, and as a deputy head, it's certainly in charge of pastoral care. You are dealing with situations as they arise, and maybe picking up the phone to parents, etc., etc., etc. So, my days were 6 till 6 every day of the week. Saturday mornings was sports fixtures. My wife goes out at 7:30 in the morning, comes home at 7:30 every night, and still sits down in front of the telly and plans and marks for the next day, etc., etc. So I think you've got to factor in that term time is full on. There's no getting away from teaching. If you're doing it properly, and you're planning and you're marking and you're preparing for every child in your class, because they're all different and they all learn differently. So you have to prepare for that as well. You are exhausted when you get to half term and the holidays. But my wife works in private school. I think they finish today. We go on holiday next Thursday. Guaranteed she'll be in every day till Thursday, because she's moving class. So she's got to go in, clear up. There's no one else doing that, moving everything. And then she will, over the holidays, will be gently thinking about next year already, new ideas, planning lessons already, booking trips. All of that is already happening during the holidays. You never get away from it. And I think also she will go in quite a few days over the holiday, because you feel more relaxed knowing that you're on top of stuff before the kids return. Do you know what I mean? So the more you do in preparation beforehand, the more you're ready for when they arrive day one in September again. And you've got a new class and new kids to get to know, etc., etc. Yeah, it's a full on. And look, the thing about teachers is they're in teaching because they care. They're not in it for the money. There's no, that's not why they do it. They do it because they care. It's a truly vocational role, and it's probably the most important role anyone plays, because a bit like the charity, you're empowering the next generation, you're inspiring the next generation, you're molding the next generation. And what's doesn't happen so much now that used to happen more, I think, in the past, is that it was very much a collaboration between parents and teachers, because everyone wanted the best for their child, and they wanted them to be well mannered, and they wanted them to be this, that, and the other. I think there's a lot of parents now, I know we've gone on a bit of a tangent here, Mark, but I feel there's a lot of parents now who sort of, it's like, hand them over to the teachers. That's your job. You're raising our child. No, we're not raising your child. We're working with you to give this child the best possible start in life. Do you know what I mean? There's definitely a lot more social work going on in schools than there ever was, because of that sort of lack of parenting, I suppose you call it. But yeah, it's and look, one of my biggest challenges when I was a deputy head was I couldn't sleep if I hadn't resolved an issue that day. So I would be still phoning parents at 9 o'clock at night, because I couldn't sleep if I hadn't spoken to the parent about a situation on the playground or in the classroom or whatever it might be, because I wanted them to be aware of what happened, what action was taken, what are the next steps. And only then could I sleep. I didn't like that stuff hanging over me till the next day. So yeah, you take a lot on, and as a teacher, you're so invested in those kids. It's not just their education you care about. do you know what I mean?
I think I say it because maybe out of being a bit biased, obviously, because my missus is a teacher, but it's I suppose it's quite welcoming for me to hear what you've just been saying, in a way, because I thought all that, but it's good to get it confirmed by somebody else who is actually a teacher, who has been a teacher. People just don't realise, I don't think, how much time. I think it's more time than anything, if I'm honest with you, how much time that goes into it, because people do have that preconception, as I mentioned earlier, about, oh well, she gets 8 weeks off, so what's she doing in the 8 weeks, or she gets 2 weeks off at half term, and they can't take holiday at any other point in the calendar year. So that's the only time they can take it. Plus, they're also trying to plan for the next term. So, But,
and 8:30 to 3, and it's not 8:30 to 3:30. No. That's the other thing that people just don't get. I mean, and you're right about time, because the demand put on teachers in terms of accountability, paperwork, recording everything, is huge compared to what it used to be. It's you don't tick, hand the book in and job done. It doesn't work like that anymore.
obviously you're here to talk about your story today, and I think people will listen to that. And yeah, I think feel inspired. I think because there's lots of things that we've spoken about today that I feel would resonate with people. So I think it's made for a really nice episode. But before we finish, there is a great round of trivia to come up. So before we end the episode, it's a quick fire trivia round. So where we talk about some of your most favourite things. So the first question is favourite food.
Yeah, see, food's a very emotional thing for me. This is such a hard question. Such a hard question. But I'm going to plum because I love cooking it with risotto.
Yeah. I feel that's a very underrated dish, that. I do like risotto.
A good risotto, mate, is the best.
Yeah. Favourite alcoholic beverage?
It has to be a red wine. I can't afford Burgundy, so we'll go to Bordeaux. And I like Left Bank. I like a Cabernet Sauvignon rich Bordeaux. There you go, mate.
Yeah, nice. Favorite band or artist from the world of music?
I'm going to plump Thor. There's loads, but I'm a massive Rat Pack fan.
Yeah,
Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. Again, it's emotional stuff.
Yeah,
I love singing it as well, but I won't do that for you now, Mark, because it could be painful.
does music, and I think I probably know the answer to this already, but does music take you back?
It's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I cook in the evening, I put the music on, and sometimes it's jazz, sometimes it's modern, sometimes it's classical music. You know, themes from films. You know, I've got a whole load of little playlists, and it's all about your mood, isn't it? It's music is about mood. It can really. It makes me cry. You know, there's certain music that reminds me of my dad, and I cry my eyes out. But that's a good thing.
Favorite TV program or film?
I'm escapism. I'm sort of, you know, give me a detective series, good detective series any day of the week. You know, things like Morse. I like the sort of quite classic Rebus. You know, those sorts of things. Complete escapism. Plop in the sofa, away you go.
Yeah, I have to say that's one of my sort of favourite ones as well. Is detective programs, and I'm a big fan of like Luther.
Yes, I love Luther.
Yeah, back in the day for me as well was A Touch of Frost. I thought that was a very underrated detective show.
Yeah, totally.
So, favourite place in the world?
It's sort of wine related. I am my whole family, we're sort of Francophiles. You know, before we had kids, all Jill and I would do in the summer holidays was take the car and go and tour around France and eat great food and drink good wine. Perfect. I'm in a happy place there.
Yeah.
Very happy.
Favorite famous person?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't place an awful lot of importance on fame. Surprise, surprise. But I suppose at the moment, Gareth Southgate.
Yeah.
You know what? I've always liked him. He's a genuine. I think he's a genuinely nice bloke, right?
Yeah.
He's put up with a hell of a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
And yet he's clearly the best, most successful England manager ever.
Yeah.
But I think he's a good bloke.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So that'll do.
Biggest pet peeve?
Meetings. So many meetings are a complete and utter waste of time.
Yeah.
Really annoys me. We don't need them. You know, my dad was a manager for 40 years, never held a single meeting. I said, how'd you do? Yeah. He said, how'd you do that? He said, Jim, I just communicate. I talk to people. Everybody knows what's going on. Why do we need to get together and talk about it again? Oh my God. Yeah. Really good point.
Yeah. Valid point. Any superstitions at all?
No, not really. I'm a massive believer in fate. I'm a massive believer in you reap what you sow. I think, you know, if you give, you will get back.
Yeah. And
it's not why you give. You don't give to get back. But I think genuinely, if you're a person who just plows into life and does the best they can, you will be rewarded in one way or another. So, yeah, but no superstitions, not really, no.
Yep. Favorite memory of your life so far?
Probably my wedding. I should say the birth of my 2 children as well, shouldn't I? I should throw that in there as well. Well, I married the most amazing woman in the world, so it didn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Simple.
Biggest achievement?
Do you know what? I suppose on the theme of family, it's not easy being a parent. So I don't know whether I've done a good job or not. I hope so. But that's probably my most important role in life. So that's got to be, that's an achievement that I hope I've delivered on.
Yeah. And what inspires you on a daily basis?
Oh, simple people, other people.
Yeah.
Honestly, I for the first time in my life, I'm working from home because our offices are basically full of young people all day being counselled. So it's not appropriate to be there. But I will also spend probably every day I'm out for at least one coffee with someone. And I love that. Just sitting down with someone, a coffee, and finding out about them and their business and this and that's brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So going back to me being a warrior, and I am still a warrior. When I went back to my school to teach, the deputy head there, brilliant guy, Irishman, Dennis McSweeney. And I'd go to him and I'd go, oh my God, this is, I'm really worried about this. I don't think I've done this right. And blah, 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 blah. And he goes, Jim, is it going to be a problem next week? I said, no. And he said, well, why are you worrying about it now? That's all he ever said. Is it going to be a problem next Monday? I said, no, it'll be done, does it by then? He said, well, why are you worrying about it now? And I thought, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I know it's not easy to get stuff out your head, but actually that was a really simple response he gave me. And I thought, you're absolutely right. This time next week, I won't be worrying about it anymore. So why am I worrying about it now? Simple. Yep.
Last question. 3 guests you would invite to a dinner party?
This is a challenge, because I would probably go for people that I know that nobody else does. But because of the importance of laughter, I've thought that maybe David Jason, Victoria Wood, and Ronnie Barker could be a bit fun.
Yeah.
I like the old school comedians. I love Ben Kay. Don't get me wrong, Ben Kay. And there's loads of other that I love, but I love those old school comedians who I thought were genuinely funny. And I think that could be quite an entertaining evening. My mum made me a fan of Victoria Wood. She was very, very clever. Clever woman. So
that sounds like a good dinner party, actually. I mean, I know for a fact I'd have one of those guests at my dinner party. I'd have Sir David Jason there.
Legend, right?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, obviously, I mentioned about Touch of Frost earlier. One of my favourite programs is Only Fools and Horses. So, it's great. Look, Jim, honestly,
I'll be doing the cooking. I'll be doing the cooking. So that
it goes without saying. Or Jill will be doing it. Your wife.
She is brilliant as well. I must admit, she's actually brought me to tears with a couple of dishes she's made. Of joy. They were so good.
Like intimate joy in there. Jim, look, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So perhaps you'd like to tell everyone where our listeners can find Youth Talk, but also yourself.
Well, first of all, Mark, thank you so much indeed. It's been a real pleasure. Really, really enjoyable. First time I've done anything like this. So you're very kind indeed to invite me. So Youth Talk, I think we talked about it earlier. We cover St Albans, Harpenden, and all the surrounding villages. I would love it to be national. I think this is a service. If we could take it national one day would be amazing, but we're not even managing to cover the challenges we have in our own area. But it's www.youthtalk.org.uk if you're looking for us online, and from there you can reach all our social channels. So we're LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all the regular channels. We are open to supporting 13 to 25-year-olds who either go to school, live, or work in the area. So you don't have to live in the district, but if you commute into the district and you work in one of the local businesses and you're under 25, our service is available to you as well. So I think that's important to know. I think a lot of people just always assume we're supporting people who are still at school. No, we're not. We go to 25. So, it's everybody beyond school as well.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thanks again, Jim. And join us next time for a brand new guest as we continue with more life lessons from the world of business.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour. Subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands podcast or at podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!